Buenos dias. Good morning to everybody. I think we're gonna get started here in the next 1 to 2 minutes. We're just waiting for Paul Kyle to come back into the room right here, and so I think Miguel is gonna come back into the room as well, and I think we're about to start. We want to stick to our schedule. If you could join us up here, please. We may have to, circumvent somewhere around there, just because of the sheer number. All right, so we want to thank everybody for taking the time today to be here with us, and for showing a commitment to the vision that was laid out yesterday, to the commitment that was articulated not only by the college but also by community people. So gracias a todos for being here today. Paul, would you open today with a quick blessing, perhaps?
Sure, absolutely. Lord God, what a privilege to be together. Thank you for our many blessings. Thank you for our families, our friends, and the blessings that you've shown upon us and that you've taken care of us. And thank you for the rich stories that we have, each individual, and the stories and the memories we have of our family and the accomplishments we've done over the years and just the richness of our lives. Help us to embrace one another in new ways that we can learn from one another. And what an opportunity to be here this moment, today. We may not have a chance to be together again in certain individuals. So help us to embrace today and take today and write a new story that we can bring glory to you and help those families and individuals that we encounter each and every day. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
If we could do this now. We're going to go around for a quick circle as a way to open the day. If you would tell us who you are, what institution or community you represent, and then pause for a second and give us your one word. One word, not a sentence, not a complete thought. One word. One word could be a complete thought, but one word that essentially conveys what you're feeling right now. Who you are, where you're from. Pause, and one word.
Paul Kyle, Dean of Students here at Johnson County Community College. Joy.
It's Rick Mooring. I'm the Dean of Learner Engagement here at Johnson County Community College, and probably be connectedness.
Mindy Kinneman, Manager of Student Life and Leadership Development here at Johnson County Community College, and Hope.
Irene Schmidt, I teach Spanish here at the college, and I guess my word would be peace.
Okay. Rudy Padilla, I'm feeling unity.
Just an old or two dude.
What are we supposed to say?
Your name? You want to say?
Oh,
Where you from?
Chip Alonzo, Korea War veteran.
And one word that describes what you're feeling from the conference so far.
How about this?
One word.
Terrific.
Dennis Day, Johnson County Community College, sharing.
Patricia Donaldson, International Immigrant Student Services Initiative.
Gloria Rosso, Counselor, Curious.
Mary Jean Billingsley, Program Director, Johnson County, and I'm feeling warmth.
Mary Lou Jaramillo, El Centro, Grateful.
Angel Mercier, Johnson County Community College, Performing Arts, Excitement.
Ann Fielder, Johnson County Community College, Learner Engagement and Developmental Reading, Appreciative.
Debbie Hasser, Curriculum Coordinator, Optimism.
Jason Kovac here at JCCC, Learning.
Ruth Randall, Dean of Curriculum and Academic Quality, Inspired.
Kathy Hanlon, President Crystal Ray, Opportunity. Pam Vassar, Student Life and Leadership Development. Inspired, sorry, it's already been said, but.
Ona Ashley, Director of Hospitality at Johnson County Community College. Anticipation.
Marcela Lopez, Cristo Rey, Kansas City High School. Excited.
Julie Haas, JCCC. Anticipation as well.
Melinda Bryan Smith, Small Business Development Center, Johnson County Community College. Happy.
Dale Mooney, Assistant Principal, Cristo Rey, Kansas City High School. Anticipative.
Judy Riley, JCCC, and I feel inspired.
Robert Murphy, Counselor, Hope.
Jan Heinen, Olathe School District, Opportunity.
Victor Lopez, El Centro, Commitment.
Leslie Quinn, JCCC, Respect.
Eric Arazo, Olathe Schools, Excitement.
Miguel Guajardo, Provocative.
Merlin Merrill, ELL teacher, Knowledge.
Pete Belk, JCCC, Community.
Margie Shelley, JCCC, Believe.
Satminder Kaur, JCCC, and I feel lovely.
Marianne Dickerson, JCCC, Acceptance.
Julie Pitts, JCCC. Change, change, change.
Chris Christensen, JCCC, Passion.
Francisco Guajardo from South Texas, Dream.
Okay, one of the things that we wanted to do today, both for the benefit of the new folks that are here, but also for the benefit of those of us in bridging yesterday to today, but also to help us guide for the future, is that we've asked 3 people to reflect, share some thoughts about the experience from yesterday, and as a transition point, okay? So I will pass the mic to the first person.
Yeah, well, what I really took yesterday was, you know, excitement, and to see, first of all, how many people in this community are involved to help the Hispanic community, and that are working together with all these wonderful programs and opportunities to get students involved in higher education. To see that there is hope, and that all these young men and women are going to be able to move on and get an education, and to just imagine what that's going to look like when, you know, the more kids and more kids get involved in these programs and are able to go to their full potential. And by the program, or the when we did our project and we got to sit down and kind of start talking and being creative, to see how we were all looking at things, and to see how we can put that on paper and make it out of clay or little sticks, whatever we call those things. And, you know, just to be able to see how we all feel about it, and that our goals are very similar within our different programs, and that we all want to accomplish something for the good of the community and for the good of the students in our community. So that's what I got out of it, just to see, I think, more than anything, hope and excitement.
Thank you.
Yes, yesterday I was very proud that my fellow American GI Forum members, Roque Chep and Tony Montez, could speak more. Usually when we're at an event, I'm usually the one who represents our chapter, and I'm usually the one who speaks of my experiences and of our founder. I love the story of our founder, Dr. Hector Garcia, and but these folks, they're usually in the background, and they're usually you see them in a parade carrying a rifle or the American flag. And but I was glad yesterday to be able to hear, so they could tell some of their stories, and they have some stories they probably have not even told me yet, but I guess I admire them because of their circumstances, their environment in which they grew up, and they overcame that, and they overcame a background of difficulties that most Americans don't experience. Roque in Kansas City, Kansas, Chep in Topeka. And so I'm just very pleased that you all could hear some of their stories yesterday.
Mr. Padilla, may I ask you a question? Thank you. I noticed this morning when you introduced yourself, you pronounce your name differently.
Pronounce what?
Your name.
Yeah, Padilla?
Yes.
Yes, as I grew older, I prefer to pronounce it that way. But if people want to pronounce my name in English, that's okay. When I was growing up in school, of all things, my official name in school was called Rudolph. And when I joined the service, the fella typing up my papers, I gave him my birth certificate, and he said, "Hey, come here. Your name's not Rudolph." And I said, "I know what my name is." He said, "Your birth certificate says Rodolfo, Rodolfo." And that's the first time I ever knew. So now I like that. I like Rodolfo. And then I thought, well, I'm going to start saying Padilla too. So.
Yeah, because yesterday you introduced yourself as Rudy Padilla.
Okay.
And today you introduced yourself as Padilla.
Okay.
I mean, I caught a difference from one day to the next. And so I just wanted to ask if that was a conscious thing, or it may have been a subconscious thing for you, and if it matters.
Sometimes it depends on the setting. If I think the people know Spanish really well, then I will just say them. But I guess I just wasn't thinking. I felt more at ease, I guess, probably.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised to realize the power that our students have. When you look at little Erica and Brenda and Luis, who are probably in class right now, you don't think that really they are our biggest resource. We are here trying to establish bridges between the college and the community outside of the college that helps Hispanic people, and we're always wondering, how do we establish those bridges? Well, our students are the bridges. Our students already are connected with Cristo Rey. Our students are already connected with Latinos of Tomorrow. They are our biggest resource, and we have to use them in order to establish the bridges and make them more solid and really effective. The word I used before when you asked for it, one word was curious. It was, I'm really curious to see what comes after this. Are we just staying in just words and fuzzy feelings and all? No, we need to do something, to go the next step. So what is that next step? I'm curious to see that. And I think the answer lies in our students.
Thank you. I noticed that there's a young lady here who I don't think we met yesterday. Did we meet you yesterday?
No, I was not here.
Would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Amaryllis Valdez Dempsey, and I am with Latinos of Tomorrow. I am one of the advisors. I will be taking over Latinos of Tomorrow after Robert Barrientos. He's going to be moving aside and focusing on our fundraising, and so I will be taking over that group of young students.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about Latinos of Tomorrow?
Not yet, but there are other folks who were here, who were not here yesterday. Just introductions.
I'm Mary Lou Jaramillo, and I am the CEO of El Centro, and I've been there for 4 years, and I have been in nonprofit service for over 20. And El Centro is the third Latino institution that I've served, and proud to be with. I have a lot of respect for the American GI Forum My father was a veteran, and the Jimmy Martinez chapter in Topeka was named in his honor. And for the students that were here yesterday, and I'm sorry I wasn't here yesterday, I absolutely believe with Gloria's comments. Years ago when I was at Kansas State University, it was the students who created MECHA in 1975 at this land-grant institution where we could count the number of Mexican-American students on one hand. International students outnumbered Kansas Hispanic students at that institution back then. And today, I am really pleased to see the leadership that has developed from those students. So yes, use the students as a bridge, because it's amazing what they will continue to become with a solid education.
Thank you.
Well, let's see. I've been here at Johnson County Community College for about 13 years. I've been on the faculty side teaching Spanish classes, but my background is most definitely bilingual. My father was Puerto Rican, my mother from Guatemala. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, so I've just grew up with all this at home. And eventually, it wasn't until I went to college that I started taking Spanish literature classes and making more of a connection through literature to Hispanic roots. Fell in love with it. I always liked literature anyway, but there was something about the Spanish American literature that called to me more so than American Lit, more so than British Lit. And so I went with that. I met my husband in my undergrad years, hence the last name Schmidt. So I tell my students, yes, my name is Profesora Schmidt, and it's oh so Spanish. But you know, the reality is that there is such a diversity of last names in a Hispanic community. There are a lot of Germans in Chile. There's a lot of Italian in Argentina. And just throughout, I mean, Fujimori, come on. There are a lot of last names out there in the Hispanic community. My own maiden name was Ramery. So as you can imagine, in San Antonio, Texas, I was often confused for Ramirez. And I didn't like it, not so much because of any other connotation, but because it was just wrong. It was not Ramirez, it was Ramery, which is more of a French origin. So with Schmidt, that kind of became easier. It's just Schmidt. Might be confused with Smith, but whatever. So, you know, I do have plenty of stories, but I'm sorry I was not here yesterday. I was in the classrooms.
Anybody else? Okay, so.
Wait, hang on for a second. Mary Lou, was there a story that you wanted to share with us about your father?
Only that he was a terrific model for me and my family. My grandparents came from Mexico 102 years ago. Both my parents were bilingual. They were engaged in their community, both in the Mexican community in Topeka, but also civically. So even back then, I could see the importance and the value of connecting outside of our barrio. I mean, that's really the story.
It sounds like the story that shaped your own, not just career path, but also your life.
Well, it has. You know, sometimes opportunity comes knocking at times that I least expect, or we least expect, and sometimes I wonder, why now? I'm not ready. I can't do this. But in the end, something inside just says, well, why not? And so I have had many opportunities wherever I've lived in Manhattan, Kansas, Topeka, and now in Kansas City. And it's really the organizations like MANA, which was a Latina organization founded by Mexican American women that I give credit to for providing opportunities for people like me to develop leadership skills through volunteer service. And when other civic leaders see what is going on in that little group, I think they begin to notice and wonder, how do we tap that knowledge and information? So just like Latinos of Tomorrow or the students at Cristo Rey or even at El Centro, there is energy, intelligence, knowledge, culture to be tapped.
By Johnson County Community College.
They know it.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, Julie Haas and Peter and others in this room we visited over a year ago about how to help Johnson County connect. And through conversations, we listened to what they told us at El Centro about what they thought they needed. And so a board member and I put together presentations about the diversity of the Latino population, the culture, education, and employment and workforce. And I think that helped us, and hopefully it helped you as much as it helped us. But over 4 months, we've had these conversations with several people in this room, and those were conversations. We came in and provided some information, but really the true value was in the conversation. And so both Peter and Julie know that I think we want to continue the connection, because just like the students, El Centro can be a resource, because we have learned so much in our 37 years of serving a Hispanic population that we can bring and share that information with others.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for reflections, thank you for the stories, and thank you for the words. What we'd like to do today is dig a little deeper, okay? Get into, some of the nuances of the language we use, of the systems that we developed at our tables. Things like leaders of tomorrow. I mean, everything I hear here is that kids are leaders today, right? What does the language we use look like, and what does it mean, and what does it set us up to do? These are important things for us to consider, right? So we're educators, many of us, and activists, and we do this work because we have a real passion. But the reality is that if education is anything, education is political. And I'm not talking about Democrat, Republican, or this or that. I'm talking about what are the decisions that we make on a daily basis? How do we allocate the resources? Right? Because only when we go to that space can we then really begin to think, and I absolutely agree, that we're all alike, but we don't all get the same things. Right? So what does that mean, and what does that look like, and how does it play itself out in our everyday life? So part of what we want to push ourselves to is to have that important conversation within ourselves, but then between each other, so that we can get not just to a place that we understand each other's stories a little better, as we began to do yesterday, but then so that we can learn together on how do we take these important commitments that we've made, so that what the definition of we're all alike really means that we all have the same access or opportunity points. All of this is just really as effective as our end products. So how do we get to those points? Okay? And we want to continue to dream. And so what we'd like to do now is go back to where we started and where we think that the real important work happens. We'd like to have a couple of rounds of one-on-ones. Okay?
You have to do it with somebody you haven't met yet.
Yes.
Find
new.
somebody who you haven't met. We hope to have exhausted, what that question means, right, before long. Because we want everybody to get to know each other and that sort of thing. But this is foundational stuff. Find someone that you haven't met, and if you think you met everybody, at least find someone that you haven't had a conversation with. We want to spend a little bit of time just talking to someone. Get to know them. Why are they here? What is their work?
So here's the guiding question, right? Because we want to dig deeper. Yesterday we talked about what is my work and who am I? Today we want to dive in deeper and have the conversation of what is my passion? And what will I do to help advance this Latino-ness in Johnson County Community College? Or what am I willing to explore? Okay, those two questions.
Say them again, please.
What is my passion, and what am I willing to do? Okay? It's an exploratory process. But let's begin the conversation with those two questions. So we'll go for about 6 minutes, and then we'll have a second round. Same questions, different people. Okay, go.
Go find someone. And don't monopolize the conversation, please. ¿Verdad que sí?
Nosotros nunca decimos pláticas, decimos charlas o conversaciones,
Pláticas.
no pláticas.
Ahí viene una. About 20 seconds more, and then if we can go back to your places as you wrap up this conversation, please. ¿Se oye bien el tuyo?
¿Se me sí? ¿Se oye? ¿Me oyes?
Poquito.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. No se oye bien este.
All right, go ahead and exchange your business cards, and then wrap it up, please. Let's wrap it up. ¿Esto se oye bien? No.
Sí. Bueno, vamos a empezar aquí y se va a andar meando la gente.
Sí.
Take a 5-minute break.
Sí. All right, we'd like to hear from maybe one or two people, but not as a way to review the conversation you may have had, but if there was an aha moment that someone may have experienced as a result of the one-on-one conversation that you had. Was there a kind of an aha moment, or maybe just a real moment of enlightenment that someone may have experienced? Yes, sir.
Well, I just had my aha moment with Victor.
Mr. Murphy, if you would just stand for a second so people can see you well. Thank you.
I had a one-on-one with Victor here and discovered that we came from the same neighborhood, our families. Whoa. And so, and then what I was talking about is this neighborhood still exists, and it's a small neighborhood, but it has a number of Hispanics, African American, and whites. And my father built a house there 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And so I was going to sell it, but then I decided not to. and now I'm rebuilding it. But there are people in the neighborhood who look out for one another, as I've seen for a long time. We always got along together. So then I was surprised when I talked to Victor and we started comparing notes and where we lived, and it was from that same kind of area there. And so that said a lot, because we all from that neighborhood went on and got into education and helping others. So that was, I think, my moment.
Cool.
It's a good moment.
Thanks for sharing
Well,
that.
thank you.
We got another.
I'm sorry, what did he say? No, but what did Roque say? He said, give him hell, Rudy.
Yes, you know, I spoke with Julie Riley, and
Miguel, préndele.
it's
No, it's on. It's on.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I spoke with Judy Riley, and she's from a large family, as I am, and you know, I guess it's what I picked up was she through her writing, she wants people to learn more, to know as much as she does, and possibly more. That is one of the problems that I had when I was, for example, when I first started working in the workforce. Sometimes you would have people who would they would only give you so much information, and sometimes I felt like I was in competition with someone when I really wasn't. I wanted to learn my job, and sometimes competition, sometimes that does things to people. But I've always felt I want people to know what I know, and if I can inspire them to do more, I will do that. And that's what I picked up from Julie. When you communicate with people, you try to help them succeed, and I'm very proud that she's a writer, because I'm sure she over the years has influenced many people.
Thank you.
Brother Dell, if you would come up so that everybody can see you.
Good morning. I think what I found with both the individuals that I was talking to is the real passion of working with students, to see the progress that occurs over the semester course we have, or the 4 years that they're with us. But it's also kind of the thing, our principal oftentimes says we're the school of 1,001 chances. If it doesn't connect with the student the first time, you don't give up on them, and hopefully they don't give up on themselves. And you know, it's that whole thing of trying to, if not, I suppose in one sense it's trying to find that spark of hope in them, or it is trying to help them rekindle that spark and to give them the resources that can, and make sure that there are people who are around them who can make that happen. Just for example, every student that comes here has a mentor at our school. And it's not necessarily our staff. We've had a lot of people who just want to be a part of the education, and so all of our graduates have a mentor. And I know they have mentors here as well. It'd be great if our mentors could connect with your mentors to make sure that that really keeps going with our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to take about 5 more minutes here before we go on break. But what we'd like to do is go back a little bit. There was something that happened yesterday when we first convened over lunch, when Mr. Padilla from the American GI Forum stood up, went to the front, and advertised a history class that he wants to, without pay. That was very clear. He just wants a little bit of space at Johnson County Community College so that he can facilitate a process so that people can learn about Hispanic Americans. And as he narrated, you know, his own approach to doing this, he invoked, you know, certain historical references. He talked about Francisco de Coronado, you know, that one of the great explorers of the 16th century. And there's something interesting about Coronado, actually, that he wrote about, because, you know, as he traveled, he wrote notes and that sort of thing that would become published later. But he wrote about this one place that some indigenous people in what is today New Mexico told him about. They told him about this civilization called Quivira. The locals call it something else, or the locals here now. Quivira, right? In fact, there's artery here in the suburbs here. That street right there or somewhere. And so, you know, this Quivira place was this magical place, right? Where native people actually, you know, enjoyed the gold and wealth and the great resource. And so Coronado, as a good conquistador, explorer would, set out to find the 7 cities of gold. ¿Verdad que sí? And so, you know where he went? He went to look for Johnson County Community College. He went to look for it because this was a place, this was supposed to be wallowing in all of this affluence and all this wealth. And so he actually got this one native that he called the Turk. They call him the Turk. The Turk would be the guide. You know, as it turned out, you know, they hung the Turk, or they killed the Turk, because the Turk was not a very good guide. The Turk, as it turned out, was just deceiving Coronado, because in the end, what Coronado found was really what would be the Wichita Indians, right? I mean, the archaeologists actually have substantiated that in some ways. But it was about this magical place. It was about the place that Coronado dreamed about. This place of gold. So in some sort of strange, even metaphorical way, this place here, while it may have been founded sometime in the late 60s, early 70s, is actually very well situated historically in terms of a place that people pursue. I mean, Coronado wrote about it in 1541, right? So this part of the context actually is very interesting. And I think it's terribly compelling that we situate this particular college in that sort of history that Mr. Padilla in the year 2011 comes up as a volunteer and says, hey, I want to have a conversation about this history, because I suspect that people don't talk about this kind of stuff. I don't know, maybe they do. They don't. Why not? We don't know, right? What we know is that today, on the 2nd day of September 2011, we know better than we did 2 days ago.
Yeah, so you can imagine for us, we show up, the opening, and I look at this guy and I say, man, we just succeeded. This is amazing.
Yeah, I think Johnson County Community College and the entire community just succeeded because somebody yesterday situated this whole thing in a certain kind of history. And the history is actually pretty fascinating. And I think that, you know, without putting words into the mouths of the Johnson County community people, but I think what they're doing is they're searching. They're searching for that gold. And the gold actually could be how we bring in the Latino students into this place. That's the gold. ¿Verdad que sí, Roque?
You betcha.
That's the goal. This is what we want to do. We want to begin to put a face to the dream. Because the dreams have not only been incubated here in Johnson County, but the dreams have been incubated in many parts of this country, in many parts of this world, right? So we want to give everybody here a chance, maybe about 5 minutes, to stand up, walk around, use the facility, take advantage of, you know, some of the drink and that sort of thing. And then come back in 5 minutes because we want to show you the faces of some kids. Faces of kids who look an awful lot like the kids in Johnson County. We want to begin to dream together. We want to dream together because we're searching for that gold, that metaphorical gold. before we turn people loose on break, it's fair to ask if anybody has a question. Let's take 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I'm timing you guys. Anybody seen my brother? Do you see him outside? Let's wave him in. Oh, he's having a conversation. We're starting. Mr. Padilla says it's time for his nap. So we're going to give him a chance here to sort of, halfway nap, but halfway, in some ways, be entertained, but also, I think, be provoked a little bit. So this is the setup. Both Miguel and I have done a lot of work at our old alma mater. We grew up in this small town by the name of Elsa. And you can see there on the map down here, we're in the southernmost tip of Texas. And so Elsa is right there, Ed Couch is right there. We were born in Mexico and came across, when we were kids. And so we were raised in that rural community. Elsa has about 5,000 people. Ed Couch has 2,500 people. And together they make this school district. And so, when we came from Mexico, we went to public schools there, as we mentioned yesterday, graduated from high school, went away to college, and then came back to do something about our community. And so, and this began at least when we came back, was in 1990. And so we've been at this now for 20-some years, working out of our high school and working in the community as well. So part of what we've done is that we've really documented a lot of our work. And we've documented our work in multiple forms. So we've written about this work a good amount, but we've also captured a lot of this work on video. So what we're going to show you is about a half-hour documentary where we follow 4 students from high school into college. And these are 4 students who you can actually find anywhere. I mean, you find them in Johnson County for sure, because they look like the kids here. But they look like kids, anywhere. Immigrant kids, migrant farm working kids, kids whose lives look pretty tough, kind of hard scrabble sort of backgrounds. Or their lives that look absolutely rich. Their lives filled with opportunity, filled with hope, and really driven by dreams. So we're going to see this half-hour documentary. All right, so we just want you to sort of relax. Take notes if you like. We want to have a quick conversation afterwards if in case somebody has something to say about it.
But don't relax too much, okay? Because we don't have popcorn. And this is, as Francisco talks about, much of the work that we've done is really autobiographical. We embed ourselves in the middle of it because we're not traditional academics, we're really community builders. And so think about this. The last day of December 1968, when Jose Angel and Julia Guajardo put the kids in the truck and drove across the border, settled in this small community, and raised their kids in this context, in this setting.
So just to give a little more clarity, we founded a nonprofit organization that works out of this place called Ed Couch Elsa High School. And the nonprofit organization is called the Llano Grande Center for Research and Development. And so we're going to go back and forth during the course of the documentary from talking about Ed Couch Elsa High School and talking about Llano Grande as well. But see them as synonymous because the nonprofit is the high school in many ways is the nonprofit as well. So kids who go to that high school have access to the work of the Llano Grande Center. And so the kids that we're going to profile here are kids who are part of the work of Llano Grande.
So one of the weaving elements that we've talked about is the stories of people. We all have a story. Not all stories are noble, but we need to be able to figure out what that story is, one. Two, which is part of our task here, is once we figure out that story, how do we put legs on the story? So that stories travel. So that the lives of kids and families travel. So that the story of the college travels and changes and evolves to its context. So think about these things, okay? Because we're going to connect the dots. The stories, the work you did yesterday, and where we need to go.
Whenever somebody calls us
Lights.
And they don't really know about Edcal Chelsa High School, the very first thing I say is Edcal Chelsa High School is the best school in the world. That's the only thing I can say. And when I write a letter of recommendation for one of my students, and I do that a lot, I make sure that my students are going off as the best students in the world. That's the only role I can play, when I'm talking to other people. And you know why I do that? I do that because I happen to think that what I do is immensely important. I don't know if there are any educators out there in the crowd. I suspect there are educators in the crowd. Who's an educator here? All right. I'm guessing that you guys would concur with me that the kind of work that you do is not just immensely important, but I'm talking about the kind of importance where we build communities. I mean, where else really can you be on a daily basis facing so many challenges on any given day? Man, I'm talking to 150 kids on a given day. And I'm talking to 150 kids in a way where, man, you can really impact a life. Let me share a story with you that happened just this weekend. One of my students, Maria, terrific student.
Okay, so it's not really fair to move on to something else until we at least talk about this. Debrief in some ways. So there is an open mic at the moment if anybody has an observation or a question.
There are 2 open mics at the moment.
I had a question as I was looking at those 4 stories. Did all 4 students receive, I don't know if you can share this or not, but were they accepted into those colleges and then also had the financial aid and the scholarships and stuff to boot to get there, right? What I wanted to say is that those stories hit home. That could have been my story. All it takes is one person, in my case, a counselor in high school, who dreamed for me.
Cecilia got into Columbia and she got into a bunch of other schools, including the local schools. Because we made sure that the kids applied to the dream schools, and not just one, but several, because we needed to make sure that we maximize their financial aid award so that maybe Yale was offering Cecilia more than Columbia, and so we would send the award letters to the schools, because all these schools are competing for the same kids, essentially, right? And so this becomes a game. And so if we don't know the game, then it's to the disadvantage of our students, obviously, right? So Cecilia went to Columbia. Cecilia had to take out some loan money, but I think that that her mother became convinced that this was the best investment for Cecilia. She graduated from Columbia, and Cecilia is now doing important work in New York City. Olga was one of the students that we took up to the Texas legislature. You saw her testifying in front of the legislature. And so within a couple weeks, Olga and her classmates were able to convince the legislature to pass House Bill 1403, which then allowed Olga and other kids to be able to go to Texas public schools without having to pay international tuition and that sort of thing. And then Olga, fortunately, was able to secure enough money through scholarships to be able to finance her education. As it turned out, you know, she said no to the public since she went to a private school. Power to her. You see, power is when you have choices, right? You could actually have material resources at home, but if you don't have any choices, you don't have power. So we need to begin to redefine things. Right? And so that's Olga. And Olga is actually the director of youth programming at the Llano Grande Center today. And she is actually a very important voice statewide and even nationally in talking about issues that are almost like the DREAM Act. And so she travels across the country talking to people. And she's a community organizer, Olga is. Jose is in medical school now. He went to Yale. He turned down MIT. He got into MIT early action. And so, you know, when he opens that thing up, right? And then he's in a little bit of shock because Jose's parents were undocumented. And so Jose didn't have a social security number. Well, his parents didn't have a social security number. So he opens up the award letter from MIT. And at that time, MIT cost $36,000 a year. And now MIT is up to like 55 or something, which is crazy, the whole, you know, higher ed and cost and stuff. But that's another issue. So Jose opens up the letter and he says, and he looks and he sees $36,000, right? And he's thinking about it. And I see it. And I know that Jose's parents make $6,000 a year. The mother stays at home with the 5 or 6 kids, and the father lays tile, bathrooms, you know, that sort of thing for a living. Hardworking man, hardworking woman. And so I look at the letter from MIT and I see $36,000 and I'm thinking, how can Jose fathom $36,000? So I look at the letter and I say to Jose, I'm thinking about this, right? I'm thinking, Chinga, Jose, you're screwed, man. Forget about it. I'm thinking, should I say that or should I say something else? I look and I say, Jose, this is not a problem. If MIT accepts you, they will bend over backwards. And if they won't, I will. Because I saw Jose the bill of goods at some point. And Jose believed me. You know, like when Erica believed you, Merlin, right? She believed you. And then, you know, a couple years later, you better hold on to the bill of goods that you sold to her. And when she calls you and says, you know, Mister, I want you to come to this thing, what are you going to say? Well, you're going to say yes. Because you have that bond, right? As a teacher, of course. It's a huge responsibility. So I say to Jose, this is not a problem. And then, you know what? I'm thinking, I got to go talk to his parents to make sure that they know that it's not a problem either. Jose graduated from Yale. You know, he came back home to be a school teacher, and then he applied to med school. And so now he's in med school. And Mirta is like this sales executive up in the Northeast. She went to Brown, graduated from Brown. That poet, Mirta. Are you kidding me? Did you hear Mirta's words? It's unbelievable stuff. When Mirta came into the high school, she was ashamed to tell the story of being a migrant farm worker. Just like when people say their names the way they're not supposed to be pronounced because there's a certain level of shame because, you know, of where you are, that sort of thing. And so Mirta told her story, which was like not even authentic. And so we said, well, what's that, Mirta? Hey, don't you come into school a little bit late every year? She says, yes. Why? Well, because I go up to Utah every summer. Really? Wow. Mirta, tell us that story. And so it kind of, you know, reluctantly, begrudgingly, Mirta tells the story. And then, you know, we're sure that it's a hospitable place, a gracious space. Before we know it, Mirta's telling her story of being a migrant farm worker. She takes ownership of the story. She defines her own identity as that. And then that becomes her source of power, right? I mean, how many kids are growing up in barrios in Johnson County who have incredible stories to tell, but they're private stories? because it's not part of the narrative of Johnson County. They don't talk about that on Quivira Road. Why not? We should be talking about that on Quivira Road. Actually, you have no choice, you know? So how are you going to introduce the story? Through the back door or through the front door? The front door, there's a certain level of honor. So, you know, that's Mirta. Mirta is now doing well. And they all give back. They all give back to the Llano Grande Center, and they all give back to Ed Cauchosa High School. And they know who they are.
There's a lady here earlier, I think she left, asking questions about the DREAM Act, you know, as if we should even be asking those questions. The issue of education is a birthright. It's like oxygen. If we don't have it, we're going to die, right? And so kids like Olga, kids like Jose, and this is the role of us that we began to analyze yesterday. What is it that I do? And that we will revisit today, because that counselor, we're everywhere. Do we really expect that from us? Do we really think we can deliver?
But, you know, part of this, I think your question is a really good question. Your whole narrative, it's a very emotional narrative, right? Obviously, I mean, we're all about emotional narratives. And they become emotional because we're not supposed to be there in some ways. Right? We're not supposed to be there. Through one lens, I mean, we can create a whole other analytical framework, and we can create a whole other reality. And I think that's the beauty of what Johnson County Community College is trying to do. Right? And so they see the numbers going up, maybe 7-8% Latino now. You know, I mean, Carlos said yesterday, there's 170-some% growth in this area of Latino people. You know, so we need to get ahead of the curve so that it becomes a different kind of reality. I would not be surprised if in 10 years, 25% of your student body is Latino in this school. Maybe even less than 10 years.
Less than 10 years.
So what do you do as an institution? And this really has implications across the board, even curriculum, right? So when Mirta comes into the class, when Olga comes into the class, the whole curriculum is about their own lives, principally. It's about your life. We're going to read books because we need to read books, but the most important book is your book, because that's the book that builds power, your own narrative. Because Mirta was not getting into Brown University by doing an analysis of Robert Frost's The Road Less Taken. I mean, she knows about that, but there's not the authentic voice in it. The authentic voice is in going up to Utah, and let me write about that, right? The authentic voice is about Erica coming from Veracruz and writing about coming from Veracruz and the struggle of that. You know what I'm talking about? It's about giving ourselves permission to be authentic. That's what it is. And when you're Mexican in this country, you have not had that kind of permission. You know, it's like, I mean, for when you're African American in this country, you have not had that kind of permission. Actually, I would even suggest that when you're white in this country, you don't have that kind of permission. Because we're not about building the authentic self. We're about homogenizing through curricular work in some ways. The only issue is that, you know, some of us come to places with a sense of privilege. Right? Others do not.
And some of us have our roots so much more closely that there's a certain level of resistance. And that resistance is because, si no hablo español, no puedo hablar con papi y mami, right? If I don't speak Spanish, I can't talk to my parents or grandparents. So it's a level of survival.
And can you imagine, like Rudy was telling, Mr. Pade was telling stories yesterday about how there was a time when we were growing up when we made sure that our children didn't speak Spanish, you know, because it would be to their detriment in school. You know, those children forever could not talk to their grandparents. Forever. That's part of our narrative, right? That is part of our narrative. And I noticed yesterday when Roque unleashed his Spanish, and he came out with a passion. I mean, he's passionate in English, right? Listen to him in Spanish. Oh my God. But he's funnier, He's like, you know, the whole thing. You know, but this is what we're talking about. We're talking about, from a cultural standpoint, what are we as an institution doing? I mean, and you guys are moving in that direction. You know, we're just like really, you know, prodding, right? You know, hey, it's a little more complicated. You know, for African American kids, for Mexican American kids, and Mexican American kids have a different kind of stigma than kids from other parts of Latin America. Because when you're Mexican, you know, you carry a lot of other stuff. I mean, when you're from other parts, you carry your own stuff. That's stuff too. But there's some discernible historical and social differences as well. And so the institution understanding that is really an institution becoming much more prepared to be able to deal with that demographic.
Okay, other thoughts or questions? Because we need to push on, and we'll keep talking. So Paul just happened to invite two guys that are academics, and we write about this, but we live this, right? So nobody can say, okay, these guys, they just think about it in an Ivy League tower or anything. No, we're telling you, we live this. So now we're going to push back. Now we're going to push back. Now it's time to work some more. So we want to explore, and we want you to explore. How do you find these kids in your community? How do you get them into your college? And how do we rethink what we're doing so we can get the next generations in here? Okay? What we want to do is we're going to transition from this room. Paul's identified 4 rooms within this campus that we will walk through, 4 different teams that we'll divide up into. What we'd like is for each team to take your model of what you developed yesterday, carry it over, put it in the middle of the table of whatever room you're in, talk about that model, and challenge that model. We were very polite yesterday, as we should be, right? That was one of the rules.
I'm nicer than my brother, by the way, I have to tell you. My brother's not as polite as I am.
Well, we're gonna push, right? Because we need to put legs into this. We know that what we have is what's gotten us here. Now, what is necessary to get us where we want to go? We want to keep dreaming, but we need to put legs on these dreams. And we need to ask ourselves those questions. Look at your model. Do a critique of the model. What's missing? What needs to be reframed? What are conversations that we haven't had that need to be present? Who are the people that need to be at the table with us? Right? We got a phenomenal following and support from the business community. I think they've demonstrated their commitment. We need to ask ourselves, is that the only purpose of education? That's necessary. What else is the purpose of education? Who's sustaining the democracies? Who's sustaining the social systems? Who's sustaining the culture and the vibrancy of communities? So that kids do have options. What are the conversations we need to have in Johnson County Community College? And who are the people that need to be at the table? Okay? We're not going to get that prescriptive just yet. We will go there. But for right now, it's focus on the model that you have. And then revisit that? What needs to change on that model for right now? We got the 4 frames that continue to guide the conversation. Paul, we got rooms.
Yes, we got rooms, and if my leaders would come up here, we can then allow you guys to divide us up however you need to. So Margie, Rick, and Mary Jean, you come on up, and we'll kind of spread ourselves across the room here.
No, you'll see.
The leaders know where to go. So if you want to divide us up, Miguel or Francisco, or
What we'd like to do is, okay, can you tell what division you work in? Student Services. Johnson Community College Student Services goes in that direction. Learner Engagement? Okay, I think your group is a little bigger, so if you, Learner Engagement and then divide within that group. And then Paul?
I could take the instruction side with Ruth and several others if they want to do that.
Instruction side. And then the community folks, if this team. I've got a question. Okay. Terry, let me get you the mic. Let me get you the mic.
On this model that you're proceeding, and you got to remember, one of the things I said, I'm very impatient in my statement yesterday. Should we, and I don't know if you're proposing this or what, but we have some factors here in this community that we have to deal with institutions. And I'd like to have the chance, instead of them, they know who we are, for us to go to them to say, okay, here is a problem we have, because for 8 years we've been dealing with students very similar to the situation you have in Texas in some ways. So is there going to be a chance, because that's why I came, that's why I left my business to come here, because I thought there would be this more interaction. Will we have that chance during this period to interact with them so they can ask us questions for the people that are already involved in this process of educating Latinos?
Absolutely. This is where we're going.
Okay.
This is the idea. The idea is now to think about these organizations and for us to revisit that and ask, okay, this is the way we see it. Okay. Where do we need to go with that? What does that look? This is representative. I can see that. These are the issues. This is the opportunity for that. Okay. Absolutely.
So what we're doing now is that these folks here who are from the college are now going to their own specific places. Some of them may go actually to their office suites. I don't know. But they will now talk about what it is that they do, and you tell them what it is that you as a community member think about their work and how they can actually improve their work. This is the opportunity to check out their work and their context. I mean, some of you folks from the community, you may never have been around this campus, for all we know.
Yeah, the reality is that there's a lot of work being done independent of each other. This is the opportunity to bring both together and have that conversation. Okay? Okay, Cristo Rey.
Cristo Rey.
Go with Mary. Yeah.
Mary Jean, yes.
Mary Jean.
All right, so just remember that, because we're going to move shortly here.
Okay, who?
Olathe.
Right here.
Okay, well, the
Yeah,
GI Forum
we
guys.
got them.
Okay.
GI Forum, go with Rick. Go with her. Rick.
With the tall guy. He's the barbecue guy.
See,
our stomachs are full. We're ready to go now, right?
Nap. Okay, folks.
¿Dónde está el otro micrófono?
No sé. We'd like to take a couple of minutes to reflect on the conversations that took place right before lunch. Yo siempre.
Is there another microphone somewhere? I think we...
Did I wake you up, Roque?
Thank you.
Okay, we all went to different places and we couldn't be there. So can we just give a little bit of reporting on the conversations that occurred in different rooms and in this room?
And if it, and you know, and
theoretically,
I'm not sure we're looking for full-blown reports now.
No,
I think that we
not
just
at all.
want to check
Not at
in.
all.
So not a full-blown report.
No
but
full report.
If there's, you know, if maybe things that happened that were especially remarkable. Okay, so we have one volunteer. I'm sure you can.
But in our group, we talked about including parents and the in the information and making sure we're reaching out to parents of our kids as well.
Good.
Along that line, I think as well was making Johnson County Community College transforming its existence into being a resourceful place, a place, as I think we talked of, hospitality to the Hispanic family in general. You know, not just getting your kid to go to college here. That's the end result. But I think also at the early age level, from preschool through elementary school, through junior high school, this being where activities happen around the year, and thus it becomes a meaningful place of hospitality to the Hispanic community.
I think that these two responses actually allow us to really segue into the next activity that we're going to have, which is really the big point of the last day and a half. And so, and not that we want to mute anybody else, because I think we want to encourage maybe another voice or two. But if you look up at the slide here, you know, we're about to really engage in some action planning, where we actually come out with some tangible kind of strategy to figure out how we can weave Latinos into this fabric of Johnson County Community College. I think that's a charge for all of us. So we'd like to hear maybe from one or two other people, what stuff happened in those conversations this morning that may have been remarkable, interesting. Mary Jean, I know you wanted to say something.
Let's see, I thought that we had a very interesting conversation. We ended up staying back here. And one of the things that came out of that discussion...
Come up here, Mary, so everybody can see you. Because you got some good stuff to say, come on.
One of the neat things that came out of the discussion was we keep hearing about the founder of your organization, Hector
Garcia.
And the idea came up of, with all the information that would be so helpful to share about him, wouldn't it be neat to have a symposium about him here on campus? And then as a part of that, also have people available that might talk to them about the college, people that would come to that and use it as an opportunity to get people on campus, and then they would learn about other things here. And to do it possibly in a September timeframe of the year. And that was very powerful. And again, always to hear the stories of our veterans was really neat.
So tell us about those stories. Like maybe one or two of those stories. Because you know, I saw you around you were around the table, I was around the table, there may have been 7 or 8 or 9 other people around the table, and my sense was that it was a historical moment listening to those stories.
It was, I think it was very, very moving, for one thing. Both gentlemen of our veterans, and you as well, told stories about experiences that they had when they returned from the war. And I believe it was Chepe talked about going into a restaurant with your uniform on and not being served, but also going to a drinking fountain, coming off of a ride where he was very thirsty and trying to get a drink. And at that time, the drinking fountain said white only and colored. and he went up to the drinking fountain that said colored, and someone bumped him out of the way and told him to go use the other drinking fountain. Isn't that correct? The white one?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
he
sorry,
was
I
in
thought-
the South. Yes.
He was in the South, yeah. And later, and this is before Rosa Parks happened, you were on a bus, and a woman got on the bus, a black woman, and there was not a place for her to sit, and you were again in your uniform, and you gave up your seat for her. And at that time, the bus was divided into white and non-white in terms of where you would sit, literally. And for her to sit in that seat, she was sitting in a white section of the bus. And when you finally got off the bus, he was told by the bus driver, "Don't ever ride my bus again," because he had done that for her, which was just really remarkable. So those were some of the stories that were shared for us that were just amazing to think about that time and place in history.
So I think the challenge for us, Mary Jean, is what do we do with those stories, right? We as an institution, you as an institution, is very intentionally attempting, to go to a new ground. What do those stories have to do with your vision, and path toward this new place? What does it have to do?
Well, I think it gets back to we've got to be sure that we have hospitable places on this campus for everyone, and particularly for Hispanics and Latinos. And we have to have people reaching out to them that they identify with as well. And I think we have to go to the places where they are to be a part of their community as well. We talked earlier, I was talking with you over lunch about, for a long time we've had a culture on this campus of if you are new to this campus and you cannot find your way, we don't tell you, go down here and turn left. We will walk you there. And it's been that way as long as I can remember. And I think we need to go further to walk out to the community and bring those people in and show them this is where you can go.
This issue also provokes us into, the role, historical role, present and future role of institutions of higher education. We have been places where museums exist, tremendous libraries exist, and very smart people are giving information. But what this does is it provokes us into a living knowledge. It's a living museum. How do we take advantage of that living knowledge? These gentlemen are here, but also young people. Those were part of the dreams and the stories that we shared earlier this morning. How do we cultivate this? Because as the anthropologist George Spindler says, when we go to college, we learn about everything and everybody else except ourselves. So how do we do this with these gold mines that are here?
They have to become a fabric of the college.
And as the agents of the college, how do we move these institutions so that that becomes part of this fabric that we're trying to weave?
We've got to follow up and do something with the symposium as a start, I think.
What I'd like to ask before transitioning is, right before we left, we were provoked into, I'm here because I want to have conversations, I want to ask questions. Have those questions been asked? And have those conversations, taken place? Or do we have questions of either trust issues or issues of incompatibility that we need to deal with as a group before moving on?
I'm curious about the next steps. My friend Robert Barrientos and I have known each other 40 years, and we met as student activists, having these same discussions at similar institutions. And we find ourselves here today sort of having the same discussions. So I want to know, how much longer do I wait, or the community waits?
What's the answer you want? No, seriously, what? Yeah, no, but so here's the challenge. I think Johnson County Community College is saying, what do you want? What they're doing is they're saying, we're here. We're trying to take this step. We think we know how to do it from an institutional standpoint. We know we don't know how to do it from a community standpoint. So, you know, we want, at least this is the message that I'm hearing from the college, is we want you guys to be we don't want input. We want you guys to be full participants in crafting a strategy.
Here's part of the challenge. You weren't here yesterday. The chief academic officer was here yesterday and opened the conference. Did you want to go at it again to respond to that question? Just so that those in the room that are not clear about the position.
Yeah, but I think as we move to Dr. Reinhardt, I think that there's something that Mr. Padilla has actually, yes.
You know, I want to ask a question. When Roque and I were here about 3 or 4 years ago, we had a very nice meeting, a very productive meeting with Dr. Callaway, and then you had an Office of Inclusion and a very long title. Is that office still here, and is Carmelita Williams still in charge of that?
There are some change happening in that.
Okay, okay. You know.
The mission is still there, certainly the mission of the university.
Okay, you know, I tried to get through to Carmelita. I said, you know, this, from the literature I received at home from Johnson County Community College, to me is not representative of Johnson County, specifically the Hispanics. We're the largest minority in Johnson County since I moved to Johnson County in 1967. But this brochure that you sent me, it shows like you would think this is 70% blacks in Johnson County Community College. I said that there's only one person looks like they're Hispanic, and I'm not sure. And you know, and then I mentioned, you know, if you want to possibly get more Hispanic personnel here, there's a national organization called Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. And right away, Dr. Callaway, he said, I told you, Carmelita, this is an organization I know of. We should be in contact with them. And she said, well, I meant to, but I haven't had time, or something to that effect. And, you know, I thought things would move forward then, but I guess they really haven't. I have not noticed a big change in outreach. I was hoping someday I would be invited back, but I was not invited back. I mean, I'm not really that bad a person. I'm really not. But that is what, you know, maybe the wheels of progress do move slowly, but in an educational organization such as JCCC, I would hope that's not true. I hope that they are forward-thinking, and I hope that that the staff who represent Dr. Callaway can do something to increase the interest of, as has been mentioned, of the Hispanic young folks who are driving by here, and possibly someday in the future they say, that is my college. So that is what I want to bring attention. Thank you.
I mean, I sense, you know, we have sensed this since from the beginning of these conversations, that people are trying at this institution to deal with that tension. They know that there are issues. There are deep issues in the college, but also in the community. I think we all know. We all know that there are deep issues. But I have to say that we're here today. And I have to say that if things don't change, I'm going to put it on you, Mary Lou, because it's on your watch. I'm going to put it on you because it's on your watch. I'm going to put it on you, Paul, because it's on your watch. If things don't change, and we have witnesses here today, you know? I mean, I don't know if 40 years ago there were witnesses when you guys were yelling out at the college. There may have been. I mean, obviously, the two of you. But I think that at some point, it really becomes, okay, what am I doing? I mean, we know that you've done a lot, because you actually mentioned that you've been rebuffed, you know, by certain school districts and certain colleges. But for some reason, Rudy Padilla keeps coming back. And he keeps coming back. And if you had been here yesterday, Mary Lou, you would have seen that he stood up at the very beginning, right after lunch, and he said, I've been given permission. I don't think he even said I've been given permission, but he said, I'm going to teach a class here on Hispanic, you know, history, Hispanic American history. So that's his step. That's a very positive step. I don't think you would have said that 2 or 3 years ago, because I'm not sure that you would have had a conversation with the president, which you spoke about in great detail. So there are steps that we see. And I mean, I think that there's some sincerity here. But I think that the sincerity has to be these folks not by themselves. Because I think they know that they cannot do it by themselves. I think the conversations have been very clear about that.
And I think you know, folks in this room understand the perception. They might not agree that that is the reality, but the reality is that perception becomes reality, right? So it exists. Does the college personnel want to respond a little bit to that before we move on to conversations?
The college has had, over these last several years, a commitment and emphasis toward diversity and inclusion. That hasn't changed at all. What we're beginning to change now is this new diversity initiative and inclusion and all the faculty and the staff from Johnson County that are in this room right now, that we're trying to, as opposed to having a centralized approach, which was your discussion that you had before with a particular office. Now we have that responsibility and that passion within the recruitment office and within the counseling office and within my engagement division, and I think we've decentralized that. Is something very recently that the president has asked us to do under the leadership of Dr. Day's new branch. I think we're actually looking to intensify the commitment, but to do so by diversifying. And I think this conference, in a sense, has given us some baseline training for a great many of us to launch this more campus-wide initiative. And I'd like to think that the impact in the larger community will be greater because a great many more hearts and minds affected. So I think that's something that very recently Dr. Callaway is making some changes on. And Carmelita will be involved in some of that still, but in fact, we're going to be having a great many more partners charged with this mission. So just kind of a recent change that we've had. But.
Yeah, there's a question over here, and then we can come.
I just wanted to ask the question, when you feel like the waiting is over and you feel like that day has come, what does that picture look like so that we'll know kind of what it is you're wanting to see have happen there? And one of the other things I had a question about, we talked a lot in our group in student services about perceptions. We had a long discussion on that. And we do think there's a disconnection between what our perception of ourselves might be and what perceptions might be in the community. And could you talk a little bit about what is that perception of JCCC among your community?
Did you want an answer? Did you want to respond?
I was going to respond to Mary Lou.
Okay. Yeah, well, but okay.
I was just going to follow that up because,
sure.
excuse me.
Just keep these conversations in mind.
I would like to address, because I'm on the operational deal. I'm your client. I bring students to your school out of my own pocket, out of our chambers and members' pocket. We pay for these students to come here. So if you want to look at this as purely talking to a customer, that's fine. What I'm frustrated about is that Mary Lou also, we have been on national boards. I helped formulate MECHA, which was a political action group back in the 60s, was in Angel Gutierrez's La Raza Unida party, established all these foundations and stuff like this. And there hasn't been, and I also want to talk to Dennis, because we've talked about this 5 years ago. Me and Gene Johnson came up here to talk to him about how, on an individual basis, you guys have been remarkable. I can actually see the improvement from 5 years ago to today. You guys know, you now recognize that we do have a Hispanic population in Johnson County. And like Rudy was saying, we've been the majority minority here. But there's a lot of practical things. There's a lot of practical things that you're still not aware about who Latinos or Hispanics are. First of all, if you're from South America, I hate to use the word Hispanic because that's a derogatory event. That word is only used in the United States. And that was told by, and because I'm a demographer, I've been fighting that kind of language for years because we're Latinos. And that's the thing that unites us as a culture, is Latinos. Second of all is that I've attended Harvard. We have a master's degrees of people here. So you're talking a generation here. There is a bunch of segments. Just like I mentioned, not to say anything against Texans, Texas is a different world. And I did mention about using the word migrants, because we don't have a big population here of migrants, and our kids don't like to be considered migrants, even if they're immigrants. They're immigrants or they're Latinos. These are some common basics that has to come internally from you, has to be recognized internally by the department. Also, I think, and Carlos could testify to this, is that we have been very, the Hispanic Chamber is a national organization, the largest, other than the Council La Raza, the largest organization was started here. That should be recognized, that we have national specialists in leadership here that you guys need to start tapping into. And that's part of the thing, is recognizing that, first of all, the Latinos are not just some homogeneous population group up here, that we are all different, even within the regions of this country, and even with multiple generations, from my generation to even Rudy's generation. There's a complete difference here. That you start looking at us and recognizing the differences, and to also how much we do want to be involved and how much we do as clients are bringing students to you. Now, what are you going to come back to us with? I think we had great conversations in our group when we started to lift the message up to a bigger perspective, from what do we do to enlarge services in a world that we're looking at where labor is worldwide. It's not just here in the United States. We're teaching our kids, Latinos of tomorrow kids, to understand that they have a right to go back to Mexico because they are citizens of that country. How do we prepare them for that? Because our country is not going to let them stay when they get to work. And that's ultimately what you guys at a community college level have to recognize. So try to discuss a number of different issues here, but I think I expressed it best what I could.
Yeah, so it's a dynamic population. It's a complicated and complex issue, but all of these points are well taken, and I think that's your question is what we need to be charging ourselves with. So if we're successful in this process, understanding the historical context, if we're successful in this process, what will that look like in the short term, in the midterm, and in the long run, right? The next 6 months, the year, and 5 years. And I say that because, strategic planning isn't about 10 years down the line anymore. It's about the next 90 days. Things are changing so fast. Jobs are changing so fast. Policy is changing so fast. So we need to be strategic and systematic in this process. So what I hear is issues percolating that are relevant. I don't hear anybody, I don't want to move forward. Any dissenting voice in the room? Okay. What we want to do is move it forward. And we want to get really concrete. So these conversations we've been having, this planning, envisioning, you've convinced us. So now what? What we're going to put up here is a framework that we would like within the same groups that you have these small conversations. Group 1, 2, and 3. Go to your separate ways, use flip chart paper, and begin to identify priorities. Priorities that we can begin to look at as a group, as independent groups.
And just like we did this morning, we don't want Johnson County folk to be having conversations by themselves. We want people from the community, just like we broke it up this morning, to be in conversation with the institution. It needs to be a reciprocal kind of thing. A lot of sharing, a lot of problem solving, a lot of asking questions. Okay, what we're providing is a framework here for action planning. If for some reason there is some sort of organic impulse that says, I think we need to do it a little bit differently, all right, well, let's check out your creativity. I think, we all have the permission here to be creative in our own ways. The bottom line is this, that this institution is moving in a certain direction, and you all here need to inform the institution how it moves in a way that is respectful, in a way that, that honors the community, and that also honors its own commitment. So how can we move in that direction?
And so what we've put up here is consistent with the language and the concepts that we've been having conversations around. But now we're saying, put names on there. Who do we go to if we have questions about outreach, about recruitment? Who's taking the lead? And what are the timelines? When will we come back and revisit this? Within this, we need to be talking about how do we disseminate information, how do we continue those one-on-ones, and how do we inform each other about the work that is happening. So it doesn't take 4 more years for you, Rudy, to get an invitation to come back here. But that we're always in this open dialogue and this consistent sharing of ideas and concerns. Okay? We're not about finalizing the plan right now. We're about brainstorming and being strategic about the different aspects of it. The next step would be consolidating and then coming back and saying, okay, these are the priorities as we've heard it.
Any questions before we break up? We'd like to stay in the room. I mean, if there are a group, if there's a group that wants to leave the room, of course, that's fine. But try to keep the framework in mind.
So 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups. We're all in the room.
With the groups you had from 11 to 12. The groups you had from 11 to 12. Because we'll all be in the room, there can certainly be some crossing if anybody feels compelled to cross and have conversations with other groups. Help the college, help the community. Yeah, no. Right. Luis, ¿te puedo cambiar, por favor? ¿Te vienes para acá? Siéntate allá, por favor. So we have 2 additional chairs for anybody who may come in. We have some extras on the outside. Okay. Okay, so we of course appreciate the good work and the honesty and the the goodwill exchanges, you know, the last day and a half. This is going to be our last process. And so what we'd like to do is there are 2 questions that we've posted up there on the screen. And so the first question is really about hearing what you have to say about the process that you just went through with your group. So we want you to reflect on the work that was done. Not necessarily a summary of the work you did the last couple of hours, but maybe point out some of the highlights that you think are especially important to point out. And so, you know, that's up to you, whatever you want to share. And then the second one is to really speak much more from the heart about what it is that you hope comes out of this.
Before we go there, I just need for all of us to have an idea that though this is the closing circle, it's not the last thing we do with the work we've done, okay? I think there are certain things that we know for a fact, and at least when I say we, Francisco and I, and that is that, the person that has led the charge for convening this group, Paul Kyle, we know that all of this work is not going to sit somewhere. You know, this work will come back, and it will come back to all of us in a synthesized way so that from here, we begin to identify priorities for this team. We just, Francisco and I don't think that that's our role. That is your role, to identify what you need to do with this work. And I trust Paul because we've built a relationship with him. Several years back, we did some work with him when he was in Butler Community College. And we started some work, and then we tried to reconvene, and we're just so busy. Then finally he said, "It's all right. You don't need to travel. We'll go to you." So he took a whole team to Texas, and we finished where we started. And then, he continued. So we know that this is going to happen, okay? If we had another day, we could do that, but we don't have another day. So I just want to let people know that those are the next steps here before we engage in this process of closing. So I'm going to pass the mic over to my right.
Yeah, but what I think in terms of just process here, I don't know what we have, maybe 40 people here or so. Okay, if we were to count 40 people times 3 minutes, that's a lot of time. So what we'd like to do is to keep our reflections as brief as we can, but not to compromise the substance or the emotion that you need to convey. So somewhere in the neighborhood of a minute or 2, I think is probably fair. And if you catch yourself going too long, just cut yourself and stop. Because chances are you said what you needed to say.
So much pressure.
You're on the clock.
Yeah.
The NFL draft.
A lot of listening. Certainly a lot of talking, but a lot of listening. And I would hope that you all go away knowing that we have listened quite a bit and taken note of a lot of what has been said.
You reserve the balance of your time? Well, going at the beginning of it's kind of hard. I hadn't reflected on what we've done. We've been very busy with it, but I'm sensing more than the obligation of this organization to make those connections that we're obliged to, given our communities and all, and feel more strongly as the counselor with the idea that the shame it is that if somebody lives in our area and doesn't think that this is a school that they could freely come to and grow at, and what are those barriers and identifying those. And I feel that the actions that we take is not to prove anything to anybody in this room that we paid some dues that we owe an organization in this room or anybody else, but to the individuals who live in our community that, Paul and I start talking about discussions that always began with the question of, do people like me go there? Well, there are a lot of people in this community that drive down College Boulevard and look up at this fine place and think that's not for them. And they're not just the Hispanic students, but I think in this situation I feel the passion, and I feel among my colleagues the movement, I think, toward doing what we need to do to be that one that takes that responsibility. And the first steps, I think, from our group is those outreach steps where we go out and we show, and actually show the way to come here, and then let the strengths of our programs be utilized by these folks. But I think it's in that connection where we'll make the biggest difference.
A little bit of echo on Rick's part. I think of my 5 and 7-year-old, and would they be welcomed here? Would as a middle class white family, how are they going to be perceived on campus? How are they going to fit in? How can we make this be an inclusive community college, with community being our middle name? And how we can go forward with that is through the continued support of the group, with Mary Lou, with all of the groups that we've chatted with, and all the pieces that we've put on the YouTube channel, and how we can continue to do this, and how we can continue to reach out. And as Leslie kind of put it, the push and pull of how can the community push towards us, and how can we pull the community back towards us as well.
It goes to, the center point has to be the students and the family. And Dr. Sherfield talks about, and the staff have heard me say this, and I keep preaching it, our biggest job is to have the student come from culture of origin, whatever that means, to the culture of institution. And sometimes that's miles apart, and sometimes that's a little apart. But you have helped us know how we can bridge that gap. Part of it is going to be that we're going to have to change internally, culture of institution. We've got to change and be more attached to the culture of origin. But we need to understand how we can help those culture of origin people, family, individuals make that transition. And I'm excited the fact that you've helped us. This just is the beginning of the story, a new chapter.
It's been very interesting to hear what our friends and guests have to tell us about how they and their people perceive us. Sometimes when you're inside of the place, you just don't, for some reason, you can't see beyond the walls. My hope is that the next time we meet, it will be to talk about how we implemented changes and how we actually put into motion the suggestions that you gave us today. No more just talk, but how did we do what you suggested us to do?
I found it interesting to hear areas where we fall short, and then was glad to hear a lot of, I had a lot of aha moments, and areas we can look forward to improving. So I look to the leadership, and hope we get together soon and work out the details, how we go forward.
I was really encouraged in our group that we had what I felt was a very honest exchange. And there were very concrete ideas that came forward, and it was very grassroots about what it is that we're about or are not about. So I'm very encouraged that the ideas were there, and also I'm feeling a lot of confidence that it's not going to just hang out there somewhere, that those ideas will move forward. And that's really exciting to me, so that we don't just keep talking, that we actually have concrete ideas. And our group came up with concrete ideas. I walk away with two things here: a lot of connections, and a lot of people that I can call internally and externally. And also, when I walk out of here, I'm always thinking, now I'm excited, what can I do? And that's what's in my mind now. What can I do? What can I do? So I'm thankful for that opportunity.
reflection. Well, I kind of look. I'm thinking what we've worked with. I'm seeing a layout, a plan. Architecture. We're constructing. We're on our way to hopefully construct or build some new paths, new bridges to connect into the future, to connect with areas that maybe we haven't tapped into. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing hopefully that we can build, get together and build those bridges. What I'm hoping does not happen is that it turns into the, where you see a lot of lip service and oops, it got forgotten about, or we lose focus and we head elsewhere. So I'm hoping that we get past the lip service and these plans or this construction that we've all have put our hearts or mind into get developed. We finish building those bridges. We finish paving this road for this family or this generation or that generation. I just hope we can see that end road, or not even an end. I mean, it's a continuous road for families, for everybody to continue on and not be stopped because that road somewhere was never finished. Whether staff change, whether people come and go, that road continues to go, continues to develop. We don't want to just put an end to it. Nope, there's a roadblock, there's a stop, we can't get past it. And what I see here, I think, from what I'm feeling and seeing is I don't think that'll happen. We might hit some glitches, but I think we will continue on that road and we will find a way, even if we run into a problem, to get past it and move on.
Well, I see a lot of opportunity, and I see myself being part of that process of keeping that as an action plan, not just having something word or just talking. In my group in the morning and in the afternoon, we came up with a lot great ideas that I think as far as we can get the budget for, we can move forward with a lot of those ideas and make them an action to continue on this conversation and to continue on building this relationship with the community. And again, I see myself as a Latina helping those action plans to move forward in the college, to continue with that with our community.
I have to apologize. I did miss the last couple of hours because I had to be in a meeting. But what I see as far as to reflect on the work and the hope for leaving has to do with building on the connections and communication that we've got. I think that we've won or started winning already, because there's people that I've talked to today that I haven't talked to and probably should have in the past. So I'm really excited about that.
I've been very impressed with the community resources that I've seen here. And by that I mean the people representing community organizations, what they have to say and their ideas. And I feel like I've put in a few little comments here and there that may have been helpful. And since this is a community college, I'm very hopeful that the college will take advantage of these wonderful community resources. Thanks.
I feel very excited and to be part of this conference. I learned a lot. It's a very informative information. It also made a lot of connection with the outside community to build that relationship and partnership with them to help our immigrant population here at campus. I'm really new to my job, so this was a great way for me to learn about other communities. I was really surprised and amazed that there's so many people with so much passion to help that community, and I'm willing to do the same here.
Several years ago when I first started in higher ed, I had the fortunate opportunity to live in South Texas and learned a lot about the Hispanic culture. But I was born and raised here and never realized the Hispanic culture we have in this area. And so through several conversations with Rudy, I've learned a lot of neat things. And I think these are great things that I can take back and share with my students and share with everyone with whom I interact, and hopefully get them to interact more with the area's local culture, and so that they can learn and grow just like I have.
I had to take notes. Just real quickly, we've started something here with engaging students, but I think what I've learned in the last day and a half is embracing families. And I think that that's not just for the Latino or the Hispanic culture, but I think myself as a parent, embracing families makes me feel better when my kid goes, when my son goes to college. And the hope is that all of these ideas and stuff happen sooner rather than later.
I want to applaud the leadership and the staff here at Johnson County Community College for doing what's really a difficult thing, and that's a self-evaluation at this point in time of your existence in this community, and trying to understand how to be relevant and productive and accessible to the Hispanic community and the children and the families, as we spoke about. But I want you to know that I'm convinced others here from the Hispanic community are ready to step forward with you and grow forward and achieve the goals and the dreams that we've all spoken about.
Well, it says reflect on the work you just did. I didn't do any work. I just listened. And the hope as you leave. What is your hope as you leave? Well, my hope is that you find a way that you can influence the Latinos to attend college more and talk to them, and hopefully maybe it'll work out okay. And as far as I'm concerned, I thank the good Lord that I'm here talking to you now after what I've gone through. Thank you.
Yes, I told Chip and Roque how much I appreciate them coming here today. I wasn't sure if they would or not, and they both told me that they learned so much, and they are also very glad that they attended. But both Chip and Roque, they are both action-oriented, and this is our second time here to discuss recruitment at Johnson County Community College. The last time was about 3 years ago, and I guess we were hoping for more Hispanic presence, and we are available, and I'm thankful of the work that's been done here the last 2 days, and as I leave, our hope is that attention will be paid to that one column with the headline timelines, and hopefully that those items under timelines will be thought of constantly, and we like Roque, we really would like to be seen as equals in American society, and I think this college can do an awful lot to start that.
I continue to think about how much more work we have to do, but this has been a big step. And my hope as I leave is that there will be many steps soon to follow, and that what we've talked about will become a reality, not later, but sooner.
I kind of don't even know what to say because I feel like I am on the bridge myself. I have a history with Cristo Rey, and I love Cristo Rey, the people, the kids, and I'm new to the college, and so I'm learning about the college, but I bring Cristo Rey with me. So this is a unique place in which I find myself now because I don't know everyone. I don't know all the processes. I'm learning that, but I'm hoping that there will be a role for me to be able to answer the needs of the Latino kids, both in my classroom, because it becomes very personal. The kids that I say kids, some of them are non-traditional students, they're older, but the students that I have taught in the past and am teaching now are developmental reading students, and they have greater need of support, of understanding, of respect for the culture from which they come. They come and they need that extra whatever it is, and that's my heart. So I'm just hoping that I'm going to be able to be a part of making whatever is going to happen be good.
I am just so touched by the work of everybody in this room with the conference and everyone's contributions and the stories of each person in here that were brought together to give us information and resources. And I think we've been working real hard to make the campus a place where people feel welcomed, respected, appreciated, and safe. And I think we've come away with some ideas of things we can do even immediately this semester and into the spring, some ideas that we can implement right away. And to me, that's very encouraging.
Well, I appreciate the work that was done for me today, because I was only here today. I appreciate the openness, the willingness to share, and the listening that went on, and of course the ideas that came forward. The hope for me is we either started or reconnected, and I'd like that connection to grow into a sense of community.
Well, to me, it's been a really surprise because of I'm from Wyandotte County, so Yavapai, I don't know if you know, but every time that you hear about Overland Park, or it's about, they really don't like Latinos or Hispanic in this area. So hearing this is really an open eyes. Normally I hear very different stories, and as you know, English is not my first language. It's my second language, and Spanish is my first language. I went to Penn Valley, I learned my English there, and if you can hear my accent, it's because I learned it when I was 25 already. So I say, if you learn the second language when you're 7 or younger, you will not have any accent. I do have my accent, and I'm very proud of it, because yes, and it was very hard for me to go to college, because even my parents will tell me that I was wasting my time. But I showed them, and I'm very proud of what I am now, and I want to serve an example, not just to my family, but to all the Latinos or Hispanic, however you want to call them. And I have 2 girls. My older daughter is now in college, and my younger daughter will be graduating this year from high school. And I never told them they had an option to go to college. I told them that they had to go. So I hope that my race will continue with this, and that we all will go to college and be not the minority in college, but not maybe the majority either, but not being just a number, but being able to do something for our own future.
Well, I think our coming together gave us an opportunity to change some of our perceptions, because I too believe that our perceptions are our realities. But by listening to each other and hearing each other's ideas and stories and perceptions, I leave more educated, and I leave also with the hope that we have a commitment to move this forward together.
First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation to the community college here. I understand what it means to take as many of your personnel and bring them together for a day and a half. That's not an easy thing to do. The other thing that I certainly would hope to be able to continue is the telling of the stories. We're all here mainly because we're concerned about students. That is what unites all of us. And that doesn't make any difference whether we're from Missouri, and I am, and I'm certainly one of the very few here in Missouri, and I appreciate you inviting me over here. But I also know that we have some of our students here. And I want the very best for them, and wherever we can make that happen with you, I think it's our commitment and certainly my hope that we'll be able to work together to make that a reality. And it is true that many of our students who will be coming over here will be either Hispanic or African American. But I think hopefully you have a well-prepared student coming from us, and that we can continue to learn from you as well as you from us. Thank you.
For the past couple of days, I've been on a path that I've been on this path for a long time. And this path is to bring more students of color into higher education. And I've been doing this for over 30 years at different institutions. But here, for the past 2 days, we've been focusing on bringing more Latino students into higher ed via Johnson County Community College. I came here 14 years ago, and when I was hired, one of the things that I was asked to do or requested to do is to help to be on the path for bringing more students of color to Johnson County Community College. And I saw a very interesting term in the past 2 days. And those terms was, what we're trying to do is to wove Latino-ness into Johnson County Community College. And so I think that that was very apropos. And so I'm encouraged that we here at Johnson County Community College are trying to do that, to wove more students of color, and in this particular case, Latino students, to Johnson County Community College. My hope is that in 2 years or 5 years, as individuals gather around, and that we will have different topics to discuss than what we have today. Because if we do, then that would suggest that we indeed have made some progress. Like I said 14 years ago, what we're discussing, we have discussed a number of times. And my hope is that what we have discussed the past 2 days will lead to implementation down that path of woving students of color into the fabric of Johnson County Community College. When I look around the college today, as opposed to 14 years ago, I see more different faces. I see black faces, I see brown faces, I see yellow faces, and that is an improvement over 14 years. But we have more, but we need to see more. We need to see more faculty of color. We need to see more staff of color, and this will help the woving of the fabric in Johnson County Community College. So my hope is, and I'm very hopeful that we will begin to achieve that. And in 2 years or 5 years, we come here, and I want to have discussions, but I don't want to have to see these same discussions. I mean, especially at the same level. So in 2 years, we should be able to come here and discuss it, but we have different aspects of the subject. So that's my hope.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Really appreciate. I have gratitude and respect for this institution. I'm going to, nothing changes for me because we're going to still bring students here anyway. So I'll be here, okay?
Well, as a student and as Latino, I want to help more students, more Latino, Hispanic, more Latinos to come here and finish their education. And if with your ideas or your purposes, I wish, well, my hope is that you can help them to to finish their career, well, their goal, and just keep going.
I too want to applaud Johnson County Community College, Paul, Dennis, the whole staff. You know, we work with a lot of corporations, a lot of organizations, and when you enter topics that such as this, most people are afraid to enter. So I do applaud you to addressing the issues head on. And you know, as far as hope, the last few days I actually saw connections. And I saw people give each other numbers. I saw people saying, you know, what's your email? There's no doubt in my mind after these 2 days that we're going to continue to see things grow for the betterment of Johnson County Community College and for the betterment of the Hispanic community in all of Kansas City.
Did you want to say something? No. Okay.
So, just a point of personal reflection. You know, I think about the PhDs in this country. And of all the PhDs, at least the last numbers that I saw, only 0.038% of them are Mexican American. And I say that because, you know, for me, community college was a way in. You know, I got a PhD, I play in different places and, you know, have the luxury of traveling to some very beautiful and important places. But the entry point was a community college. And so I say that because we don't know where the next PhDs are coming from. And we need to believe that those kids that we're inviting will be the next PhDs. They will be the next doctors, the engineers, the attorneys. They have to be. And we have to believe that. If we don't believe that, then we need to find a place, another place to work. There are very few jobs that are really high stakes. One of those is being a parent, and the other one is being a teacher. And as public servants, those are our mandates, that we have to believe that every child will be the next doctor, the next courageous citizen of this country. Whatever the degree, I think we owe it to them. And so, you know, personally, I too applaud this institution for embarking in this journey and very courageously inviting people that need to be part of the conversation. I think there are many more people that need to be a part of the conversation, but this is a start. And it is the start of a long journey.
Okay, so we're reflecting on the work you just did, and what was your hope as you leave? I'm sorry. Okay. Not a problem.
Can you move in just about a foot more,
Sure.
please? Thank you.
Well, my job here at the college is to work really closely with students and to provide students opportunities. So I think it's just encouraging what we talked about today and really hearing from the students and hearing and bringing everybody together to work on behalf of students is just really exciting for me. So I think I feel really hopeful about where we can go and lots of really good ideas that have been presented to us. And my hope as I leave is that we just put some of those plans into action, that we actually do something, that we not make this a nice conversation that we all just walk away from, but that we actually implement some things and have some accomplishments. I was the first? Oh.
Yeah, you're the last.
I hope that was really profound.
So before we pass it on to Paul, I think we're just closing the this exercise here. I just want to build on something that I think Mary Lou mentioned, that 40 years ago she was having these kind of conversations. Robert. And so you point to Mary Lou and you say, how long have we known each other? 40 years. 40 years ago we were having these kind of conversations. Somebody. I remember when I was an undergraduate student back in the mid to late 1980s that we were having these kind of conversations as well. I do remember that when we were having those kind of conversations, that the Mexican-American student enrollment at the University of Texas at Austin at the time was about 4% in Texas. It's up to a little over 10% now. It should be much more because it's half of all grade school kids in the state of Texas are of Mexican origin. And when you look at Latino, it's more. So, while that institution makes some strides, probably about that time, this institution may have had 1 or 2% Latino students at the time, 20 years ago maybe. I don't know. What we know is that you're up to about 7 or 8%. But what we also know is that there's the school-age kids are probably at what percentage, Carlos, while you check your BlackBerry? Yeah, how many, what's the rate of 24%? Yeah. So we know they're coming. Yeah. Right? This is why we're here. And so we know that this institution, just like every institution in this region, really, should be not only bracing itself, but should be thinking very strategically about how they reimagine themselves to be places where these children, number one, can get in, number two, succeed, right? Because we want these kids to be doing well so that they can participate in this democracy. In so many ways, that's it. In so many ways. In another way, we want kids to know who they are, right? And so our institutions need to be also nurturing places for that. So, I, for one, am encouraged about what this institution is working on. And I echo what Miguel said about how I don't think this is going to be put on the shelf. I think that the work we did at Butler Community College some years ago was not shelved, and there were changes that were very significant, which we expect will happen here as well. But it really is going to be about all of you holding everybody accountable. Everybody here needs to hold everybody accountable, holding yourselves accountable, holding each other accountable. And so I think that that we did some good stuff here in the last couple of days in terms of being fairly honest with each other. We saw the honesty sort of get a little more authentic, right, as we went along. But that's such as the stuff of a group process. But I'm encouraged. I'm very hopeful. I think that because of Johnson Community College, Johnson County Community College, that this will be a better community in the next 10, 15 years. So congratulations to everybody for coming out and really committing to the time. It means a lot that you stay here, that you come early and that you stay until the end. That means a lot. And I think, you should be proud of yourselves for that, and you should, be proud of everybody else for that, because that's commitment.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. We are honored to have you here. We appreciate your wisdom, your insights, your creativity, your commitment to being here. I know you're busy people. Busy people are usually committed a lot of different directions, and we do value your time. I'd like to give a hand to the outside agencies that came and are a part of our family now. I want to give them a hand for being here. Thank you, JCCC staff, for being here and being committed to this. And please give a welcome and a thank you to Fajardo Brothers. Thank you very much. I appreciate your helping us and coming alongside with us, and also the work that you're doing locally and nationally. And I know you'll continue to do that work. Appreciate it very much. Thank you for your stories. And actually, we now have connections to interview more people to get more stories, because stories come out of stories, and they continue, and we'll be writing a new story. This will not go away. Okay, I've got two brothers here in Texas that'll keep on me if it doesn't continue to go on, right? That's right. So we'll keep, like I said, we'll keep each other accountable, because we have to do the right thing. We just have to, for lots of reasons. So thank you. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Spend some time with your families. Enjoy, relax, and thanks again. Appreciate it very much.
All right.